I'm Sam Rose, and you're tuning in to Commerce is Chaos, the podcast for consumer brand founders who know that building a business is messier than the highlight reel shows. Your supplier just missed their deadline, your top product is out of stock, and your competitor somehow launched the same thing at half the price. Sound familiar? Every week, we dive into the real problems that keep founders up at night, from inventory disasters to supply chain nightmares, because surviving the chaos is what separates brands that fail from brands that scale. The Ross-Rose combo. The Davis-Ross-Rose combo.
Love that. That's great. Ross and Rose.
Ross and Rose. I'm so stoked to have you on. You are a legend to me. But yeah, you've been in the game for a while. So
I have, yeah.
Yeah. And yet you're so young.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. People used to say that, but once I went bald with this business, basically, I stopped getting that comment because people look at me and they're like, I don't know. I don't know how old this guy is, but I am 39, so I'm right under 40.
Yeah, you're getting old.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm 40. I'm 41 as of the day of this recording.
Well, yeah, amazing. Happy birthday.
Well, no. Sorry, I don't mean it that way. I mean, like, as of today, I'm not yet 42.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you meant today was your birthday.
No, but I had a call earlier today with someone whose birthday it was, and I was like, it's Friday, get out of here, go have fun.
Yeah, great vibes.
Yeah, good. Yeah, always Friday birthday vibes are great, which happens like once every 7 years, right? Unless you're in the 14-year cycle, and then it's twice because of leap year.
Right, that's right.
This is a totally random fun fact, non sequitur. There are like 14 total year calendars possible. So like if Friday is the 1st of, or Monday is the 1st of March, there's like 14 different permutations of the year calendar that are possible.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think there was a moment in life where I learned about the leap year, and I basically let that one go over my head. And I was like, okay.
And then you put second cousins once removed.
Yeah, but basically it happens every few years. Someone brings up a leap year, and I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah. But like, I know that leap years have like something shifts, something happens, and I kind of like missed that window at school. But yeah,
you didn't go to class that day.
Yeah, well, I just remember in class really clearly being like, I remember learning about leap years once and just like never thinking about it again until someone brought it up. But I kind of just need to look at, like, kind of just like do some YouTube video and think about the funny, quirky things about leap years.
There you go. Well, that'll be the first episode of the Davis-Ross conversation.
Yes.
.com.
The founder that doesn't understand leap years.
What are we?
Right.
And then we'll just have like other educators come in and they can kind of figure out like if you were
last time we had a leap year, my production run was a disaster.
It's like Y2K, but every 4 years.
Right.
I wonder how that does. That you have one extra, one extra day in February for sales, which is good.
Yeah, you're telling me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're telling me.
No, I am. Okay, let's talk about Plant People. But first, I must introduce you. You have so much experience in this category, but in other categories around CPG. And what I love about what you're doing now, or at least my impression of it, which I hope is true, is that you are building something that like really lasts, like a durable brand. And I think the reason I love that is that there are so many brands that just like rise and fall like a tide, and it's sad to see so much energy and go into something and then and then not be around in a couple years, especially when it's like amazing products like this where you're like, I want more. Like, I want this on the shelf forever kind of a thing.
Love to hear that, of course.
Yeah. Tell me about, so you bootstrapped this, right? And then you had a category pivot. Like, give us like a little bit of a quick overview of like how you got to today.
First, I just want to comment on what you just said about, building a business to last. I mean, that's been our whole goal. Like we've been saying since day one that if we could be doing this for the rest of our lives, we would love to do that. And I think, we've been very intentional in not making it feel too hip or too cool, and almost like too TikTok-y. So it doesn't feel like a splash in the pan. It feels trusted, feels like it has longevity. And to be honest, we're a family brand. Our core demo is like the Whole Foods mom. And like a lot of brands don't start there. They like head there or they get acquired to go there. And we love that. That's like we've built an omni-channel platform since day one. And we've had a brand platform for that reason because we want to have longevity. We don't really want to be a splash in the pan. So I'm so happy that you said that. And thanks for the kind words. But yeah, I'm happy to give you a download on how we got started and who we are and everything. It's been
Yeah, like
definitely
how did you survive the first hard thing that happened to the business?
well, I mean, we've had a lot of crazy things happen. I can list I mean, there's more than I can count on my 10 fingers, that's for sure. And I would say like every quarter something really crazy and insane happens, but I can give you some background on how the business started and I can talk through some crazy moments, one of which is like probably like our craziest moment. But yeah, so we started this business out of personal stories. My business partner and I both had spinal surgery, learned how to walk again. We didn't wanna take
Me
pharmaceuticals. Sorry?
me too.
Okay, what type of surgery? What happened?
Well, I leg surgeries that forced me to walk again, but I have
Oh
learned to
my
walk again twice, once for a spine thing and once for a yeah. So actually 3
crazy.
times because I had to do it when I was a baby too. They don't let me remember that very much, but
Oh, man, yeah, no.
anyway, sorry,
Luckily.
I digress.
Yeah, but so I had a tumor in my spinal canal, and they did a laminectomy, so they removed part of my spine, and then my business partner obliterated one of his discs, in a skiing accident. But we were talking about our recoveries and how we didn't want to use pharmaceuticals at the time and how we wanted to try something more natural. And so we started playing around with mushroom, herbs, and hemp. Those ingredients worked really great for us. And so we started giving it to friends and family, worked great for them. And they essentially said, if you're selling, we're buying. And that's how our business started. And we put our meager savings of around like 10 to 15K into the business and within 18 months, we did, 4.5 million, very profitable, just all four of us underpaid. And then we staffed up in Q4 of 2019 and we were launching at, the Super Bowl of natural foods, which is Expo West, March 2020. And then COVID hit. And that was the first conference that I think nationwide was canceled, maybe globally. And it was, the world kind of turned upside down for the following years. But essentially, what ended up happening was we lost 90% of our independents and boutiques, retailers. And then it got very expensive online because that's where everyone was shopping and all the VC backed companies essentially were spending a lot. And we hadn't raised any money. So, we went into survival mode and that was like a really intense moment for us. I mean, definitely questionable. We questioned the business model, we questioned ourselves. And I think we had a lot of learnings. And I'd say like those 2 years were really a struggle. We burned through a lot of cash, lost a lot of money, and just to like stay afloat. Luckily, we kept everyone on the team. Over time, people ended up leaving but on average, they stayed for 2 to 3 years, which I think for millennial Gen Z is a great run, especially during a pandemic. Um, and we made some decisions. We didn't really pivot. We just sort of like rejiggered the business and followed the money and lowered the costs. And yeah, I'm proud to say that January 2023 onwards, like every month has been the best month in company history, and it hasn't stopped. We're really performing. We're doing, around 8x we did in 2019. And, it's a mid eight figure business. And I'm super pumped to be where we're at and very humbled after that experience.
Wow, congrats. What a ride. Like to just find out, a couple of weeks before like a critical moment that everything had to change. And you're right, like specialty retail, I mean, like totally kneecapped in that moment.
Yeah.
And if that's where your business was and then I was bootstrapped too, it's like I don't have the dollars to compete with this.
Yeah. No
Um,
way.
yeah.
Yeah. And I
We
think
had oh go ahead.
I was just going to say to your previous point about building like a long-term business, like that experience showed resilience and showed that the business can be elastic. And I think we now know what our ceiling and our floor is, not in terms of like growth, but like the ability to be agile and the ability to change the business, the ability to work very quickly, the ability to lower costs and do things, achieve the goals with the limited resources. I mean, the definition of an entrepreneur in my mind is to, accomplish what you believe in with no resources, right? So, um, it's definitely like a empowering experience.
Accomplish what you believe in with no resources. There's like that is like definition of sweat equity. Just like
Exactly. It
grind it out. Um, Tell me a little bit, okay, when ops get tough, and they always do, how do you feel out like what to cut first, or if you have to cut, like what are the signals that you're looking for like, oh boy, man, we got to contract, and like right there is where I need to like mark the X on the pipe to like, survive this moment.
well, I think it makes sense to stay with the COVID example. There's many other examples that I could refer to, especially from my other businesses as well, but that I previously ran. And I think the in COVID, I think what we really thought through is like the fundamentals. We looked at our supply chain. So we were managing our own warehouse out of Brooklyn. And while we had full control, we didn't really have like full scale and
Yeah.
economies of scale. And so we were doing a good volume, not a high volume, but a good volume, but we weren't getting like the best shipping costs. We were also paying a good amount to ship across to California. And California originally our best performing states, because we were based out of New York City, was in the Northeast. And then when COVID happened, so many people moved away. They moved
Mm,
to California, Texas, and Florida. And so our numbers had completely changed. And
yeah.
so when we ran the numbers, it made way more sense for us to move and now we're based in Austin. It made our way more sense to move our warehouse to Austin and also to delegate and get those operations away from us. I had prior to moving our, self-managed um, warehouse to a 3PL that was, third party logistics.
Yeah.
About 25% of my day was literally dealing with operations, constantly dealing with people management, constantly dealing with shipping and fulfillment. And for the CEO, I should be focused on growth and survival, not around like constantly dealing with operations. And so that was a huge unlock. The other one that was really impactful, there's two. One is uh, we we were always well known for sustainability, and we still are. Like our packaging's 50% post consumer. We're B Corp. We've been climate neutral. We plant trees as a team. It's obviously not that impactful in terms of what we should be doing to make a difference in this world, but you start somewhere.
Yeah.
We did plant a tree for every product sold for a period. And then, it was like 200,000 trees at one point, but we've now stopped that. Anyways, what we figured out is we had these jars, glass jars, which I think from a customer perception is better for the environment. What we realize is with the jar, you put a label around it, you put a liner around a liner, kind of like when you open up a supplement jar and there's a liner in between to keep it fresh, and a tamper seal it's called, and then a lid, and then you have to seal with a plastic brim, which is also a tamper seal. That's a fixed component packaging. And what we found is not only was it $1.70 per unit, and that were the amount of carbon emissions we were spending every year shipping those components around the United States, especially the jars, and all the stuff is made in Asia. So you're shipping across the ocean, you're shipping, it to all different places is insane. And so what ended up happening is we moved our jars, our glass jars, into a one component post-consumer plastic. And that was a huge game changer. It went to one component, yes, exactly right there. A one component, and it's now 20 cents max, depending on the volume. Yeah. So we not only saved a ton, but we also, saved around 98% of carbon emissions. So when you're in those COVID experiences, you are under a pressure cooker and you have to really figure it out and you got to figure it out fast. And so we reevaluated a lot of different things. Um, and I think the last thing is our pouch manufacturer is near Austin. and our 3PL was in Austin. So everything was centralized. So shipping things around and our manufacturers around here, everything became very centralized. We weren't shipping things from all over the world. So we not only saved per unit, we saved around like full on shipping across the board. And um, we ended up removing vulnerability. So when you have a 6 component packaging, one of those manufacturers could go down and then you can't sell anything. So we now have one pouch manufacturer, amazing, very happy. We still make it post-consumer plastic, very proud of that. And the other thing is when you outbound the customers. So we can now sell 2 to 3 pouches per D2C order and pay the same amount of shipping costs than we were with one glass jar. And we would
Wow.
put something around the glass jar to keep it cushioned so it wouldn't break. And we would use a box, and now we use a mailer. So, I mean, tremendously, we saved on costs, carbon emissions to and from the customer. And so that was a really big change. And I think when you're under the pressure cooker, it's kind of like what a lot of people say with capitalism is when you compete or you have to survive, you end up um, you end up like innovating. So those were like 2 major things that happened. The last thing, and I'd say like this is the biggest thing, is my business partner Gabe and I, we basically sat down. We're like, it's 2 years into COVID, the business isn't doing well. Like we're no longer having fun. When you look at pre-COVID, we were having fun, and we basically like, what are we gonna do to have fun? And we were selling capsules and powders and tinctures at the time, and, those aren't really fun. You kind of put them away in the cupboard. And while they work and super efficacious and great for absorption, we started thinking it's like, you know what? The gummy form factor, we love them as customers, but also like they really move and they're more fun. And so we were like, okay, we've always been working on adaptogens, nootropics, herbs, and yeah, mushrooms, but no one's really applied the gummy form factor to mushrooms. So we
Yeah.
were really the first in the market, especially national distribution, to do a mushroom gummy, and it did so well, we expanded out of that. And so what ended up happening is we're having more fun because we're selling a product that people share, bring to events that you can do events with, or you can demo with, people leave them out because it's kind of like a food. You don't like put it away in a cupboard. And it's just a more fun thing. And then we were like, well, we want the packaging to be more fun too with this, not just a form factor. So we moved away from clinical to more of a family, a family vibe of colors and vibrance. And yeah, I think that was probably the big thing is we ended up finding a product market fit. And it wasn't so much a pivot because we just over time rationalized out the capsules, the powders, the tinctures, and just doubled down on the gummies. And so now we're really spreading the gummy gospel, we like to say.
Cards on the table. Your tech stack is held together with duct tape and prayers. If you're a brand founder or COO juggling Shopify, your 3PL portal, 3 different inventory trackers, and yes, that one crucial Google Sheet, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Orders get lost, inventory counts are fiction, and your seamless integrations break every other Tuesday. Endless Commerce changes the game. One platform for everything. DTC, wholesale, marketplaces, the works. AI-powered forecasting, real-time inventory visibility, and integrations that actually integrate. Teams like Great Jones, Food 52, and Pattern Brands already made the switch. Ready to ditch the chaos? Visit endlesscommerce.com. Mention commerce is chaos when you reach out and get 3 months free. Because your ops stack should be your competitive advantage, not your biggest headache. I like that, gummy gospel. Okay, there's so many great things in what you said. One thing that struck me is just this idea of fun being a motivator, because you're right. Like you're going to put so much sweat equity into it. And if you are not motivated by anything else, be motivated by fun because this is like,
Totally.
it's going to consume your life. And if you can find ways to make the product more fun too, then it'll strike people's emotional chords even more strongly, even if there's a functional benefit to it. I think what you're pointing out is that if you can make that functional benefit a little more joyful for people, that like it will literally translate into sales.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I also think that we were in a really dire position. I think we were showing up to work just trying to, make sure that the business didn't go up in flames. I mean, when you spend 2 years doing that, it starts to you start to question if this is the right thing for your career and your mental state. I mean, there were a few times in 2021 where I basically didn't sleep for a few nights. Like I was very stressed of like trying to keep people on the team financially. There was multiple weeks, if not months, where we had $1,000 in our bank account, if not less. And
You
the
were
bank would be
you
calling us
needed
when we
wonder
were
sleep.
sorry.
You need you needed wonder
Oh,
sleep.
yeah. No, I mean, I needed a lot back then. Um, and, I remember this one moment where, like, my wife at the time, my fiancée, but she woke up and I wasn't in the bed, and she came downstairs and we're at this house that we were renting, and I was just sitting on the couch, like, in my underwear, like, basically shaking. Like, I hadn't slept in days. I was not feeling well, and we were talking about bringing me to the hospital, and somehow I just passed out of exhaustion, and I woke up the next day, and I worked through the weekend for 3 days straight, basically coming up with an 18-month plan to turn around the business, and that day was the day where I was like, "I'm not gonna let this happen," and I woke up and I was like, "I need to, like, prove that I'm gonna do one big swing and try my hardest, and if it doesn't work, we give it up." I remember having those conversations being like, "Listen, this is the plan. If it doesn't work, we roll things down," and it ended up paying off.
Wow, what a story. I mean, I think, okay, so other things that I wanna double down on that you pointed out, um, survival is a choice. Like you have to come up with a plan if you have to come up with a plan, and sometimes sometimes you just have to decide that you are gonna survive first, and then everything else will flow kind of from there. That actually applies to, spinal surgery too.
Yeah,
Like,
definitely.
I will be better.
Yeah, I mean, I always think that my wife is also a business owner and we soundboard a lot. We spend a lot of our life in our relationship soundboarding with each other on decisions. And we're constantly pushing each other to, two steps ahead of you, build the person you want to be and go fill those shoes. And I think when you give yourself a problem to solve or a bogey to hit, or, you see that shell of yourself 2 steps ahead of you, you know where to go. You think through the path to get there. And then if you're the right person, like a type A or a flexible type A person, you can fill those shoes step one, step two, and make it to where you need to be. And so I think a lot of it does come down to confidence. A lot of it comes down to, knowing yourself that you're just not going to let this happen after putting so much blood, sweat, and tears into things.
Wow. Um, you've survived a different kind of challenge, which is like the challenge of success. You basically defined and opened a category, which is functional mushrooms. Then they go mainstream. Then there's like a gold rush into the category. And all of a sudden it's crowded and like, almost like a victim of your own success, which is a great thing. Like, the there's a rising tide, and all of that it helps to establish you as a winning and durable brand. But how do you survive a moment like that? Like well-funded competitors come into a category after like you find your way into it, by
Yeah.
hook or by crook. And I have to imagine that maybe some smaller competitors in the category that were like second comers, but maybe not as established as you, got consumed in all of that. What's your angle on
Yeah. I
surviving a
mean,
gold rush?
so first and foremost, I thank you for saying those kind words. I know the category quite well. And so I wouldn't say we were the first to do mushrooms. I know there's been a lot of brands, but we're definitely like one of the brands defining the category in a certain way. There's a lot of brands in the mushroom coffee category,
Mm,
um, who is they're doing 100 million plus, and I give a lot of credit to Taro at Four Sigmatic. Like, I remember I met him like 12 years ago, and he was talking about mushrooms, and I was like, that's nasty. Like mushrooms were gross, and he was like pitching the mushroom dream, and he was really early. And I think, he's definitely been a leader in the category and I'm very impressed by what he's done. But we're definitely, in the gummy form factor part, definitely one of the leaders. And I think long term, even though we're known for mushrooms and mushroom gummies, we've expanded since. A lot of majority of our gummies now sometimes don't even have mushroom, and sometimes, they have they're mostly herbs, or they have vitamins, etc. So we're really becoming aiming to be more of a new age ollie, a cleaner, more delicious, effective, and natural version of ollie, essentially. And, I think that's our track right now, is to be more of a cleaner, yummier gummy versus just being a mushroom gummy. The one thing I would say is you're right. I mean, there's a lot of smaller brands getting in, and then there's some that had wedges in the market because they were doing like crazy landing pages and had one product, and they kept on reinvesting into marketing for one product. And we've built a brand platform, right? We've had a lot of different products. We've been omni-channel, so our costs have been high for like the size that we are, but like now it's starting to pay off. um I think the way we think about it is, we're really building something that's long lasting, hopefully. And the we always tell the story of how we think of like the mushroom category. uh, I think we were on surfboards on our stomach. Just think of it as like you're out in the ocean and you see a wave, and like that's the mushroom wave. And it's coming in. And I think we saw that we're not the first. There's other surfers that have seen it, and there's some surfers on that wave. But we get out there, right? We start swimming, we start paddling, and we get up there and we're on the wave. And in the market, there's people who are on the wave that are big, successful, and say they're omni-channel performing, or they're doing really well on Amazon and just started entering into retailers or D2C or whatever. Though we're in that segment, we're in that group. And a lot of those people are trying to push each other off the wave. They're
Mm.
trying to push each other off the surfboard.
We call them
And
snakes.
but generally they're in a good spot.
Yeah.
um, then there's a lot of people who are trying to get up on the wave. And I think because there's so many people on the wave right now in the mushroom category, I think it's very difficult to get up on the wave. And I can name a lot of brands that are on the wave and trying to get up on the wave, but I'm very happy to be where we are on top of the wave. The one thing that I sometimes say and I think about a lot is, we did have to turn around the business essentially for like 3 to 4 years. And so there's certain people who like launched in 2022 that are doing like, 150, 200 million, and that's amazing for them. But like we would have been probably in that area if we hadn't been hit with COVID. We had to like figure things out. So it feels like even though we were a first mover or an early user, early mover of mushrooms and herbs and etc., I would say that it feels like we're just getting started all over again. Because in the end of 2022, we had finally just kind of like turned around the business and figured out, okay, now what's our path for growth and scale? So I hope that made sense.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, also you're speaking my language of waves. So I'm like, yeah, yeah. And then like money is your ability to paddle. And if, like
Yeah.
if you have really big biceps, it's
Yeah, right. Yeah, you have to like optimize every part of the business, your biceps and then your abs, when you're up on the wave,
you
like
gotta you
the
gotta be
board that you're
balanced.
on needs to be really good. Is it a long board or is it a short board?
Like, are you at the right beach? Like, what's the
Yeah,
weather?
right. How
I
big is
mean,
the
but like
wave?
timing is everything, right? Like you could get out there and there's no waves coming. Like it's a slow day and you can get out. I know you're giving a longer time analogy with the wave, but uh the weather has a lot to do with it. And I was having a great chat a couple of weeks ago with Ali Kriesman back from Bulletin, and she came on the
That's
pod
so
and
funny. I remember working with her way back in the day. Way back.
um anything you want to say to her while we're here? You
No,
can
I
say
mean, I
hello.
feel like I don't even know if she's doing Bolton anymore.
No, she's got a new thing.
Yeah,
Um,
I assume so. But yeah, I mean, it was like a curated shop for a long time,
yeah,
specifically for women, if I remember, and they would only sell female brands, and somehow we were able to squeeze in.
you made it.
I
You're
had
you're an ally. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm an ally, and I also what's so funny is I think in the meetings I had like all the females on the team like show up, and I was like, I'm gonna take a back seat. I was like, I'm not gonna join this meeting, and we ended up getting in, so it worked.
Well, I mean, they went through a lot of pivots too. What one really interesting takeaway from our conversation was she's like, there's an amount of curation that is sort of like too curated at some point. Like that filter becomes too tight and it stands in the way of scale. And I think the analogy here is like, you have to be able to pivot the model of whatever you're doing in order to survive. And as she and I were talking, and she's working on a lot of influencer marketing and ecosystem marketing now, and what she's doing is fascinating. And as we were talking, I was like, okay, there's like microclimate marketing happening in here, like microclimate operations, like these little sub weather systems inside, overall what's happening in the business that help you like to establish functional patterns that help the business grow or that help the business like survive a moment. So I mean, now we've rebranded the podcast again. That's going to be like some weather thing, meteorology and commerce.
Really? Love
Yeah,
it.
maybe the Davis-Ross Rose
Yeah.
meteorological
Yeah.
commerce
Hurricane.
operations special. But yeah, just so much of success or failure is dependent on what is going on around you. COVID is the perfect example of that. And like your ability to literally weather the storm is the difference between, surviving and not.
Totally. So yeah, I mean, I think, I have so many other stories of like survival in many different ways. But that's definitely the one that I refer to the most because it was probably the most intense and really put our business, in a place of stress and in survival.
Well, let's build on that. And to build on it, so you've had a lot of different chapters professionally. This is what happens when we get when we get old. Um, but just to share with viewers, so Nitro Cold Brew, right? That was
Yeah.
Rise,
Yep.
and then Crosby was branding and strategy. Aloha Ecom and Guilt is another
Yep.
chapter. Am I
That's
missing
right.
any chapters?
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah. All
it.
right. I'm if memory serves. Um, what's like from each of those chapters, like the one thing that you took from each of those chapters that are like now kind of part of your playbook here?
Interesting. Yeah. So when I started at Guild right after college, I started when it was like, 20 to 30 people, I believe. And when I ended up leaving, it was around 3,000 people. Yes, insane growth. I was there for 3 years. I think the best, I was given a lot of responsibility because I worked around the clock and I think I just like worked the ladders as they grew. Um, And the thing that I learned there is how to build like an e-com, just really understand the facets of like custom e-com. So at the time, you didn't really have Shopify, or maybe we did, but it was not good.
Was
Everything
early,
was
yeah.
really custom built. They had like a team of 60 developers. Guild Groups created the abandoned cart email. So, which is like
Yeah.
insane. So I learned a lot around like trying to build a business with your hands and rolling up your sleeves, cross functional. I launched their food and wine business, international and drop ship model. And so I worked with everyone, like their PR team, their marketing team, their finance team, their ops team, their CX team. And so I got like really ecom boot camp and I'm really grateful for that experience. Then I went and started Aloha with this main founder, Constantine. And I think the learning there is I really sharpened my like ability to use all those departments underneath me and like hire people and really take everything I learned from Gil, but just do it on my own. He was more of like a visionary founder. And the thing that I learned from him is how to raise money. I mean, he raised tens of millions of dollars within like the first year and like sales weren't even like that crazy. So, I think I learned a lot around vision and pitching. And then when I came back, or sorry, when I left that after 3 years, um, I I ended up like going backpacking for a few months and right before I left, I was a big coffee drinker, and I still am. But I've always been a black coffee drinker. And I think one of the things that I was always jealous of my friends about was that they were having lattes with sugar or milk or whatever, but I just liked it black. The issue with having black coffee all the time is that it gets kind of dull.
Mm.
and it feels kind of gross. And I feel like a lot of black coffee drinkers feel that way. And I basically came across this guy like in like North Carolina, and he was like, "Hey man, have you seen like, people are starting to infuse like nitrogen into cold brew." And I was like, "Have you seen this?" And I started looking around. I couldn't find anyone doing it. It was really like a time when no one was doing it, but it was kind of seen by like some of the cold brew manufacturers, but no one was selling it. No, it wasn't in cafes. Now you see it all the time. Um, and so I was like, "Hey, can you make me a mini keg?" So I paid him and we did a mini keg, and I was like, "This is amazing." And so when I was backpacking, I was like, "I need to go home to do this." And the main reason why I like this brand is one thing I learned at Aloha is we were trying to be the Apple of supplements before we started rolling out with food bars, which are really people you understand. And when you become the Apple of anything, it takes decades to be the Apple of anything. And the one thing I learned from that experience was like with I wanted to create a business such as Rise, my coffee company, that ended up doing something that people loved already. So people love coffee. They have it multiple times a day. It's a drug essentially. It's caffeine. And everyone has an emotional attachment to it, right? It's like it's your there for you, your late nights in the library in college. It's there for your early morning meetings, your first job, your second job, your third job. And everyone wants to talk about it. It's this one product that everyone has an emotional connection to. And so I wanted to basically make black coffee more interesting and less dull. By the way, is this
No, you're great. Yeah.
okay?
I
There's a
mean,
lot of
if
light.
it's distracting for you, I actually think it's inspirational. You're
Okay, the
glowing.
light coming in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
It's like yeah.
okay, cool. Um, Yeah, so I think black coffee, I wanted to make black coffee like interesting and no longer dull. And that's kind of how I started that business. And what I learned through that is like hitting the ground running. So prior to that, it was mostly D2C, right? This time around it was D2C a little bit, but it's beverage. And so you have to use distributors, et cetera. And so I also had to walk into stores. So I walked into so many stores in the beginning and just sold in, understood retail, and also build like a really strong office building. So like by the time I had left that business, we were in like 2,000 offices, and big ones too, like Facebook and McKinsey and like Oracle and Microsoft. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So I really learned like boots on the ground experience carrying kegs in the subway. And that was a really amazing experience. And coffee is just fun. It's like a fun category. You're getting people like high all the time, basically through caffeine. And everyone again wants to talk about it. So that was fun. And then my branding and business strategy, Crosby, was really an amazing experience. I was doing something unique pre-COVID when I started, which was distributed networks. So I wasn't hiring headcount, and I was just assigning contractors for projects. My learning there was I'm really good at sales and I can get a lot of clients. My other learning is that I just want to build some of my own, and like I don't really like services. I think when you're in services, you um you're like the client's always right. That's like the best way to say it. And you're kind of like on call like through the weekends and late nights, etc. And so my learning there was even though it was very good cash flow and it was great to have when I was starting Rise because I needed the money, I think it just wasn't for me. And then Plant People, as you know, I came about right around then, and I ended up leaving Rise and Crosby to focus on Plant People because it had the most upside, like great margins, high subscription, and the best part is you're helping people. Like that's our mission. Every day I wake up to amazing product reviews from customers of how it's helped them with their needs, and that's just really rewarding.
Yeah. Okay, these are great. Yeah. What different chapters too, and what different lessons to take from them. Is there
Yeah, the
something
one
that
the one through
yeah.
line is just like I've been in consumer and in consumer goods, and actually, if you include coffee, it's like all been plant based pretty much,
Yeah. Well, that's
except for Gill.
um Guilt was so fun. I was such an early customer of Guilt
I
and
know
and
it
a
was a
guilty
blast.
customer. I feel like I was early in my career. I had, like extra time and I wasn't yet a business owner and so, I'd sit at my desk at lunch and like see what was dropping on Guilt, and it was really fun. I still have like some amazingly beautiful things that I never would have been able to like either discover or afford for myself without that.
My God. Yeah, I mean, guilt was like, I mean, it was just high times. I mean, it was just, it was right out of the financial crisis, and they hired amazing people because so many people had lost their jobs, the financial crisis. So they were hiring people from consulting, from finance, from like advertising. I mean, it was just a melting pot of unbelievable talent. And people always talk about the LinkedIn like mafia, or if I think there's like another company,
PayPal.
um, yeah, PayPal mafia too. And I think guilt has that at consumer. A lot of people have started businesses out of the guilt experience.
Um, do you like it when it's hard? Like, do you like the challenge of like this is a fight? And would you be happy if it were easy?
So I talk about this with my wife all the time. She's a solo founder. It's her first business. I told her that 2 years into her business, she's going to feel crazy.
Yeah.
And we talk about it all the time. We feel insane all the time because one, you're managing so many facets of the business. You oversee every department. You're neurotic, and you've done every single part of the business yourself in the beginning. And so you're constantly running. I agree with what the founder and CEO Jensen said at Nvidia. Like, he probably, I mean, I don't agree with the statement, but like he said it really well. Like, he doesn't know if he would do it all over again if he had the chance. And that's crazy to hear that from him. And I think the main reason why is it's painful. I mean, there's a lot of pain in this world, and I don't I think it's hard to relate not it's hard to relate with people who are not founders sometimes, because the amount of pain you go through sometimes on a daily basis just for the upside down the road. Like, you spend so much of your time like equity poor, and you spend a lot of your time just hustling and trying your hearts, and honestly really just trying to convince people to buy your products or brand or service.
Yeah.
Like, you spend a huge part of your time just trying to convince people. And you have to be optimistic, and you have to be delusional. And I always
Cheers
say
to
like,
that.
and I think that's you start to hit a momentum once you convince enough people, and you start to go, like, you get a little crazy through the process. So um I I don't like regret anything. I've been very lucky, and I also think that like I've learned a lot. I don't really know why we're on this planet, but I've made a lot of decisions in a very short period of times, and I've had a lot of projects and a lot of ventures. I've used my time well up until now, and uh I think I've gone through a lot of pain, but I've also made my life like really interesting, and I've used the brain that I have to problem solve like like constantly. So, yeah, I'm very happy where I am in my career at this point, but it's been difficult.
Yeah, I am less and less credulous of there's like this idea that you get into startups because you want to either make a lot of money or have control of your life or both.
Yeah,
And neither of those things will be true. Maybe for
yeah,
decades, maybe forever. Brian, my business partner, husband, sounding board, all of the things. And we have this like little like joke that like we'll flick each other's eyes over and we'll be like, it's either zero or a lot.
right, yeah.
And some days it feels like it's gonna, it's like it's either zero or a lot. And you have to be comfortable playing that game. And
Yeah, I mean, I've been very lucky in that like Gill.com, I didn't like start that business, but I ran a lot of the launches. I didn't like really operate a lot of them or anything like that, but like that was a successful business. Didn't end up like exiting well, but like I consider that successful. Aloha, that became successful, but went through some ups and downs, like clear the cap table, completely different business, focus on food bars, like, but that was successful. Um, and then Rise, same thing, like was successful. I wouldn't say it was like the best exit that I had wanted, but found a home. And then Plant People has been successful and had bumpy roads too. So I think it's like when I look back at all of them, I think the through line is like just having a product that sells itself and solves a problem or makes sense, not selling something that people don't want. And I think so much of having a successful business is having a product or service that sells itself. I always say this 80-20 rule, and 80% of it is a product that sells itself, and the 20% is like not is how you sell it. And when that includes like perseverance, and that includes pain, and that includes effort, and that includes like putting the right people around you to make sure that it performs.
Um, yeah, and I think that like you can't always see that before it's like upon you.
Yeah.
I think that there's like this need to kind of like suspend your disbelief as you're going through that.
Yeah, totally.
Um, let's talk about outside capital for a minute. How do
Yes.
you, in all of these businesses where you've had control, decide whether you're going to bootstrap, bring external capital on at the beginning, bootstrap for some time until the time is right for a capital partner? Any lessons there?
Yeah, I mean, I've now started a few businesses and I am definitely like a well-rounded founder and CEO. Like I'm right and left brain. Like I've built brands, I understand branding, and I also understand like operations and supply chain and all that stuff. So like in consumer, I'm good. In SaaS or software, I probably would have some good like insight on how to start businesses, but I probably would have a lot of learnings there. Um, with that said, I'm a big proponent on raising money once you really understand the business. If your business requires, you know, couple $10,000, and if you have that money or you can get friends and family to loan it to you or give it to you, that would be my recommendation. And just get to a market with the nicest and prettiest MVP you can get to and learn from your customers. When I when I was starting Rise, I took blank silver cans with no packaging and stood outside of a Whole Foods and literally asked people to try the product and learn from them. And then also, sold them for like $1 each. Definitely not legal, but I ended up doing it. And I learned more during like honestly that those days that I did that and really like the month or two that I was in market than I did in the 6 months planning the launch. Without a doubt.
Wow.
I think, like, you
Yeah.
really should not be raising money when you don't know what your path forward is and what you need the money, like, for in that moment in the next 6 months. So, that's my 2 cents. I'm a really big person on, like, trying to do what you can, and, you know, it's better to also go raise money when you can raise on better terms. If you are pitching a dream pre-launch, like you're not going to raise on good terms. And you may regret selling that extra 10 to 15% of the business, when your business, you could have just hung in there a little bit longer and raise money at better terms. So, cuz that, as you grow, especially in inventory based businesses where you tend, especially like beverage in particular because it's heavy, you tend to need more and more capital, and it's a low margin business, especially with food as well, but I'd say beverage is worse. Um, and you end up like find yourself diluted and needing more capital. And you want every percentage point that you can get. So to me, it's like the biggest thing I tell other entrepreneurs is, just get to market, learn, iterate, don't overexpand, maybe roll with one SKU versus like multiple SKUs, like really just try to figure out um, what this business is and hear from customers.
Do you find that having your feet under you in that way when you go out to fundraise has turned into like basically more shareholder value for you and for them?
Definitely, definitely, but also you can drum up some competition and some bidding, like if
Oh.
you have momentum, like more people are going to be interested in you because the train's left the station and like, do you want to get on? Like that's the conversation. It's not, hey, I'm like building this train, gonna figure out the train tracks, once we launch. And I think the train goes this way. It's more of, hey, the train's going this way. It leaves at 5 p.m. on this time and this time. Like you got to catch it each time we stop.
Yeah.
That's what the conversation really turns into. Um and yeah, I think that there's more interest from more people.
I think navigating the power dynamics of a fundraise is really difficult and intimidating for early stage or first time founder. Um, because you have to represent that the train is leaving the station, and then you're also like, but people are coming, right? Like, how do you have any tips for how to kind of like thread that needle, or almost like cheat forward to like helping everyone believe what you know to be true, which is like, yo, the train is going.
I mean, and last thing I'd say is like there's it's circumstantial too. Like if you're in your 20s, you're not married and you don't have a house and you don't have a mortgage and you don't have kids, like definitely take that risk. There's a bit of a gradient as you get older and you get a house and then you have a kid and then you have responsibility, your your risk tolerance goes down, and that's just normal. And so I'm not saying raise money pre-launch is a bad idea, but I will probably always be that type of person just because now this is my fourth business. Yeah, tips and tricks. I think like uh I have to say there's a lot of great investors out there, a lot, and a lot of them are very smart. The one thing that kind of I would say I would give like a knock to investors is it's a lot of hype. And I'm not saying all investors are like that. We've brought on some recent investors, which I would love to talk about. And I don't feel like they're like that. But I think there's like a tendency, even them, to like want to know more about a business if other people are interested in investing, right? And I think a lot of investors also want to invest when other investors have invested because it gives validation. It's like peer validation, right? Like they've done the due diligence. I trust them, or we're all in this together type of thing. And like if I fail, then we don't look as bad because you guys, failed too. So I think there's definitely a lot of that. And I think that kind of sucks. And I also think that happens more in a very saturated, overfunded environment because it's not where it's not really about the business. It's really about like we have so much capital. There's a lot of people getting in and more about hype. And then also founders, when it's oversaturated and overfunded, have more leverage. So you can kind of have a silly business and raise money because if you get like one anchor who is really excited about this type of product, like then you can get others. I'd say that I wouldn't say I have tips or tricks. I mean, I think having like a really pretty deck is important. I think like really showing as many graphs is really important if you have momentum. I think less words is important. And I think really like nailing your pitch and showing up with energy is extremely important. Um and I think a lot of investors and I don't want this to come off bad because I want people to invest in my businesses, but I do feel like a lot of investors sit on a high horse and they think like a lot of people want money and there's a supply and demand and money doesn't grow on trees and a lot of investors have the money that people want. And I think sometimes they'll critique your business or so or give you feedback that like they didn't like something or whatever. But I think if you believe in it, you should always rebuttal. Like you should always like defend your business because I actually think they give more respect to founders who do that. um and so whenever an investor passed on us, and by the way, we spoke to like over, I feel like 150 investors when we were in COVID, and we got so many passes, and then we stopped for 3 years, and then we finally raised a Series A after not fundraising, which is so funny. um, we, I think like when they pass, we'd always ask for more information and then we would basically rebuttal, but sometimes we would agree. We're like, you know what, you're right. We need to like improve on that. So I wouldn't say I have like specific tips and tricks, but those are some of the things that I can think of. But yeah, we ended up raising a Series A with a lot of momentum in last year, November in 2025. So, that went really great. My business partner and I, after 7 years, own 90% of the business, including the option pool, essentially. And we had hustled and we were ready to like take some capital. And we went to them and we were like, this is what we have. Like this is where we're going, this is where we're having. Do you want to get on? Like we don't need to raise right now. The plan is to raise potentially in Q1. But if you guys are excited about it and we're excited about it and the deal's good, we're gonna do it. And so the deal was fantastic for us. And I think it was great for them too. Like we brought on Manna Tree and also Unilever Ventures, and they are amazing investors. I'm very happy with them. Like so far, like, we just did the deal with them, but like working through the deal with them and then also the due diligence, and then also ever since, like they're very hands-on. Was not expecting that. I was just looking for the capital, and they're very hands-on in a good way. And so I've been very happy with it so far, and they're really great people to work with. And Manna Tree is just very passionate about what they do. Um, but I think when we did the deal, we really stood up for what we feel like our value is, and that we showed resilience, and that the train had left the station. And like we want them to be involved, but if they don't need to, then that's fine. Like maybe now is not the time. Um, and yeah, so I think the one thing that is important with every entrepreneur after building it for some time is really just trying to get a sense if it's a good deal. So having people you can run the deal terms by, and also, run by and actually do comps, and make sure, you speak to other PE firms and be like, do you think it's a good deal? And a lot of people were like, that's a great deal. You should do it. So, and for them, I think we each time we spoke to them, we were beating our expectations. So we have lots to do ahead of us. We have lots to grow, and we'll continue to focus on that. But I also think that like, they got in early on us too. Like it wasn't super early, but it was smaller than normal for them, for Manna Tree in particular. And actually even Unilever these days, their fund has grown over time. But they've seen like the grit, they've seen the hustle, and I think they're gonna get a great return.
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, there's nothing better than like everybody winning, you know?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I mean, that's like I think one thing that's really important is like I don't want the relationship to start with like any level of resentment, right? Like I don't want there to be that. I think like the only thing that I probably would say is like, we by the time the deal was done, we were beating our revenues by like, a few million. And like I would have loved to had like a higher valuation, but like in good conscience and to be a good business person, like even the valuation kept on going up as we were dealing with the deal, appropriately and in ratio to what like multiples that we had been discussing. And in very fair, I would probably say like, yeah, I would have loved for it to go up, but I'd rather have an amazing partner such as Unilever or Manna Tree who is on the business while I'm in the business. And one of the biggest wins that we've had, and again, like constant communication with them, which I think some founders might find like annoying. But I generally believe that like Manna Tree is out there talking about us, trying to make introductions to software companies, which we've now worked with, to potential hires, to podcasts. And it's just nice to have people out there after, years of going through what we've gone through, who are like out there in the field and like playing ball with you on your team.
yeah. Yeah, I mean it, and to that end, like it is an ecosystem, and the more that those flywheels can start turning of you having just like great advocates around the business that are helping you operationalize something or tell a story or find a new supply chain partner or a new tech partner, um, the better.
For
I
sure.
could talk
I
to you all
mean,
day. This is such a fascinating conversation.
love it. Yeah. I mean, I I'm here all day. So let me know.
Yeah.
Ready to go.
Let's do let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, last couple of questions for you. And I will let you carry on with your beautiful Friday afternoon. Where can people find plant people? And if folks listening to this could do one amazingly useful thing for you, what would it be?
Okay. All right. So where we're sold, Amazon. We're some of the best rated gummies on Amazon, doing exceptionally there. If you do, whoever's listening, buy on Amazon, please write a review. Reviews really do matter. Thank you in advance. Our website, of course, we can, I guess I could potentially give you like a promo code to put in like the bio. I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah,
online.
absolutely. If you want.
And then
Yeah.
right now, the majority of our business, not like super majority, it's a very well balanced business, is in retailers. So we're the number one supplement brand in a few categories nationwide at Whole Foods, Sprouts, and Erewhon. So natural specialty, we do very well. We're in a lot of like fun stores and e-tailers like Thrive Market, Grove Collaborative, and then we're in REI, which is fun. It does really well there. And then we're also in Target. So Target's really important to us, and we just launched in October. They gave us like an end cap throughout the entire year. It extended, and so we're very excited about that. And yeah, I think Target. If you see it in Target, please snap it up. That'd be awesome.
Incredible. So
And
cool.
Target.com, and now Walmart.com. So we're all over the
Wow.
place.
It sounds like you might need endless commerce. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, is that yes, yes,
Have you considered
please,
ERG?
please, please, please. And then one useful thing is I think like my rules my rules of wisdom or points of wisdom is like get to market, try your hardest, persevere, be persistent, and like hustle and surround yourself with a team that really cares and that's all in. I have some of the best people on the team I've ever worked with. I'm so happy. They are a delight to work with, and I'm very lucky to have that. Um, so those are my words of wisdom right there. And
Love
last
it.
but not least, for the founders that are listening to this that are struggling and trying to figure out their business, it will be okay. Like it will be okay. It may not be this business, it may be another business, but also in the world of probability, there are 100 different ways, thousands of different ways that your business can go. And just remember, some of those ways will be very successful. You just got to figure out what it is. It's just a game of probability. So you just got to play your cards right, stay in there. And I know it's hard to listen to a lot of founders who are super successful or doing really well. I may not do well in 2 years. Who knows? I don't expect to, but I think, you never know what happens and hang in there. I've been through it. It's tough.
I love that you're saying that. I have some entrepreneurs in my life that are having like a tough moment.
Yeah.
And what I've said to them, and I've had, I mean, existential crises level, like tough moments, and not all of them I've come back from. Some business I've had
No.
to say goodbye to. Uh, and a thing that I keep coming back to, like almost like a mantra, is there's a lot of ways to make a dollar. And if the way that you're trying to make a dollar right now is just digging you a deeper and deeper hole. Like, you don't have to fill that hole with the same way that you made the dollar. There's like, you can put other ways of making dollars into your money hole
Totally.
and like fill it back up.
Exactly.
So what you're doing is not working. And especially if like if you're over your skis, if you're in debt and you're like, well, if I'm unprofitable on every sale, but I don't know what else to do to pay off my lenders, then like to keep selling. It's like, well, that dollar you can get that dollar from anywhere. So
Right.
like,
Yeah.
you don't have to keep trying if it's literally not going to work. You just have to keep trying at something.
Totally. Totally. I agree.
Okay. The Davis-Ross Rose, what do we call it?
Future
E-commerce extravaganza.
podcast.
Yeah. The conversation, that's right. It was the Davis
Yeah.
Ross conversation, e-commerce ecosystem podcast. This has been such a pleasure. I could talk to you all day long. I will. I'm tempted to, if I don't stop us here. Thank you again for taking out time out of your super busy day to share all of your knowledge and wisdom with the group. And I hope that everybody got to learn a little something. I know I did.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
All right. Take care.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Commerce is Chaos. If you're listening, I have a feeling you know just how much good leaving a 5-star review can do for a team. Drop us a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to Commerce is Chaos wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to our Substack, also called Commerce is Chaos, for more good stuff and actionable tools to build your business.